Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are live from the scenic destination of Southern California, rural Idaho, and everywhere in between. Welcome to the inaugural author Great Debate. Our referee in charge tonight is MS Ewing. And this championship bout is brought to you by the dedicated listeners of Semi-Sages of the Pages.
Woohoo!
And now, for those in attendance and writers around the world, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time for the undisputed battle for if genre really matters as a writer. Introducing first, debating out of the blue corner, or the upper left of the screen, a speculative fiction writer. Out of the bottom of the screen, a speculative fiction writer specializing in thriller, children's literature, and history. Classically trained to train others, she stands at 5 foot however many inches tall she is, with an undefeated record. It's Morgan, Rebel of the Library, Purr! All right. And debating out of the red corner, or the upper left on the screen, we've got a writer and editor who has run the gambit between science fiction to paranormal romance and everywhere in between. At 5'7", because I asked her height, holding a slight reach advantage in this contest, she also holds an undefeated record. It's the one, the only, Teresa Manuscript Saver Halverson.
Wow. You need to come to my job and introduce me.
Now, ladies, I'm looking for a clean debate tonight. All good blows, nothing below the belt, no funny business. Now, author out of the blue corner / the bottom of the screen. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Author out of the red corner, or the upper left of the screen. Are you ready?
Ready?
All right. That signals the start of the debate. And Morgan is going to kick us off here. What are your thoughts, Morgan, on this topic? Does genre really matter?
Does genre really matter? Let's discuss. And first, if you're watching this live, go ahead and guess my height in the chat. And if you get it right, I'm going to send you a Semi-Sages sticker. So what's my height for anyone in the chat? How tall? Am I shorter or taller than Teresa? Does genre matter? Well, in ancient Greece, they thought it did, because the roots for genre date clear back to Athens, where we had playwrights who wrote in a variety of different genres. They wrote things like prose, historical, poetry, tragedy, and of course, drama and comedy. The word genre comes to us from a French writer who studied the ancient world and argued that all writing needs to be put into clean, easy categories. So today, I will argue that genre matters for 5 critical reasons. Reason number 1, genre matters because it allows us to organize our information. For example, when a reader reads something, they need to make sense of what they're reading. If they're reading a factual scientific article, that is written quite differently than if they're reading poetry. And so by understanding what the genre wants from the beginning, it helps them organize the information and understand what they're reading. So it creates clarity for the reader. Number 2, genre helps us with story structure. For those of us who write novels, write in genres like fantasy or romance or literary fiction, story structures can really have dynamic and different ideas. A romantic comedy, for example, is structured completely different than an adventure or a sci-fi fantasy. And that helps both the writer who sets out the novel and can hit certain pinch points to make, and it also helps the reader who comes with certain expectations. When I sit down to a romantic comedy, I don't want the main characters to die. And that's part of story structure. I have an expectation at the end of my story structure that will pay off for me as the reader. Number 3. Oh, and I have a quote from that. William Allen from Oxford Books in 2014 said, "Genre appeals to writers because they give a structure and something to build upon, while they offer audience the pleasure of the familiar and the ability to have ingenious division from it." Number 3, genres inclusive. What genre includes? In the words of famous sci-fi writer Ursula K. Le Guin, she explains why genre matters. She says, a genre is a genre by virtue of it having a field and focus all of its own. Its appropriate and particular tools and rules and techniques for handling the material allow us to play upon its traditions, its experiences, and its appeal to the reader, thereby helping both the writer and the reader create a cohesive connection where they both get what they want from the writing and reading experience. Number 4, why genre matters. Genre matters because each of the conventions set both the writer and the reader up to have a good, pleasurable experience. There are 5 basic conventions in genre that are widely accepted by literary scholars. Those are genre tropes, setting, theme, character archetypes.
Morgan, you're running out of time here, so you'd better wrap up your point here.
Genre matters for marketing. If you want to sell your book, you have to have your genre. And with that, my time is up.
All right, we're now into cross-examination. So, listeners out there around the world, if you have questions for Morgan, if you think, man, I want to know more, or B, I don't agree, I think she's wrong in XYZ area, come and ask her. And Teresa and I will get us start off here. Teresa, do you have any initial questions for Morgan?
No.
My initial question is, what if I don't want to market my book? What if I don't want to sell my book? Can't I still be a great writer?
I think that's an absolutely excellent question. And while my 5 points are inclusive of the writing experience, it doesn't mean that you have to hit all 5 points to answer yesterday's topic. So you simply ask the question, does genre matter? And that's what you set us up for to debate today. And I showed you that it mattered with or without marketing, because you still need to have basic structure and information, and your reader needs to be able to understand what's being presented. And so creating expectations for your reader, really important for clear and cohesive communication so that the reading experience is pleasurable.
A quick comment. This is not a question for Morgan, but apparently there are some listeners out there from Wisconsin who are now talking about cheese in the chat.
That's awesome.
Lovely.
I love it.
Is
Well,
cheese a genre?
They're cheesy, so I feel like they're talking about tropes that can be, put into the genre process. You buying it?
No.
But I mean,
I thought that was a great save.
All right, we do have a question from the audience. Miss Hyacinth Girl would like to know, what about books that blend genre?
Yeah, I think that's really important because by saying that genre matters, it's not saying that you can't break the rules. And the reason I picked Ursula K. Le Guin's quote, as you know, she's a genre-bending author. And so what she's talking about is by establishing the rule, then when you break it, it becomes more ingenious and more interesting. So by accepting that genres matter, when you break out of those genres, you become more unique. And that actually allows you to play to 2 audiences. Or let's say you have 3 genres, you can play to 3 audiences. But even by marketing your book as a genre-bending novel, you're making a clear connection with the audience about what you're selling so that they're reading something that they want to read and you're offering them something that's truly unique.
Here is my question. What about, genres that people don't know about or genres that aren't common in Western literature. There are other genres and plot structures and conventions that just because, one of the things you're saying here is that it matters because it matters to the reader. But if the reader doesn't know it, then isn't it the same as the reader as it not existing?
I'm going to rely on my point one here, which is that the point of genre is to organize information. And so I might not understand a subcategory of physics, for example, or of chemistry, but that doesn't mean that the genre isn't highly important to those people operating within the genre. And so the point of the genre is to organize the information. So when people are interested in a certain category, they can find it. So I don't need to memorize all the genres. I just need to start reading and find out what genre I like and what I'm kind of pulled to. And all genre does is help me find other authors or writers or ideas in that category. For example, if I want to read about science, I need to know that I'm in, a nonfiction genre. I don't want to open a novel and it's a sci-fi novel and think I'm reading about hard science. That's not good for society. We need to know the difference between sci-fi and actual science.
All right, another question from the chat for you. Assuming genres matter for marketing, what matters more, genre or subgenre?
Well, an agent would tell you genre, so I would have to go there. It depends on how you're marketing, right? So if you're going to market to the traditional path, then genre is an absolute necessity. An agent won't even look at a query without a designated genre. However, like I said, breaking the rules can be fun. So who knows? That would just be one type of marketing.
All right. Thank you, Morgan. And as she goes to take a drink of water, it is Teresa's turn to introduce. Teresa, why does maybe genre not matter as much?
Well, I think I think it just kind of goes into already a comment that was made about how there's so much genre bending that's happening right now. And so the question is, do you need to really hone in on a genre as you're writing? Or can you write a historical alt fantasy set in space, magical realism? Why can't you do that? Why can't you bend the rules and write what you want to write and create something that's definitely going to be unique?
So, and then my follow-up question here is, so we got a couple other questions in the chat. We're going to get to them in just a second, of course. My question, and this is sort of a question for Teresa, but I guess it's Morgan, you'll have a chance to respond. What's more important, do you think, when you are marketing your book, whether you're marketing direct to readers or marketing to agents or however, what's more important, knowing your genre or knowing what your book is comparable to?
Oh, is that question for me? I'm sorry, can you ask one more time?
What's more important, your genre when you're doing marketing, your genre or what you compare your book to?
For marketing, I think what you compare your book to. I think having comps, especially again with all the genre bending that's happening, and I mean, we don't have to look at books for that one. We can look at, I'm completely blanking on it now, the one that's set in the 80s with all the kids and Winona Ryder. Stranger Things, thank you. We can look at Stranger Things. That's complete genre bending. Is it historical, set in the 80s? Is it horror? Is it family? Is it magical realism? Is it sci-fi? Is it science? Well, not so much on the science side of things. So if you write a book like that and you say it's like Stranger Things, that's going to be more valuable than saying it's a horror family set in the 80s weird mashup.
And I'm sorry. I think a cat wanted to, I don't know, object or add to that one.
So guess what, guys? Winchester's here.
Winchester has opinions. Sue has a couple of good questions. I'm going to save one of them for the end, but the other one is, how much does the author have to actually market a book?
That's a really good question. Actually, the author does, if and it depends on why you're writing the book, and what your goals are. If your goal is to sell a bunch of copies, and to try to make money or make a living at it, marketing your book as the author really matters. But who you are, people follow authors, their author persona. That's really, really important too. So you can write in a bunch of different genres and still be sarcastic, fun, goofy, and still make that happen too. And people would follow you, the author, not necessarily you, the mystery writer, you, the historical author, you, the whatever it is.
Here's my other question.
I'm assuming, is this also my cross-examination time? Or is
Yes.
this
Do you have questions for Teresa? Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Morgan.
Thanks. Okay, so my first question is, do grammar rules matter?
Do grammar rules matter?
Yeah.
Yes, always.
But
But
people break them all the time, right?
oh, I see what you're saying. I think periods need to go where periods need to go. We can hedge on commas and that type of thing. What would be a grammar rule that you'd want to break?
Well, your point was that because there's a lot of genre bending, genre is not important. There's a lot of authors who break grammar rules. That doesn't mean grammar is not important.
But are they breaking it intentionally?
Absolutely, poets are.
I would
You
agree
have
with that
not
one.
read my poetry.
So, famous.
MS's poetry is the most grammar perfect poetry ever.
Oh no, I was going to go the opposite direction. I'm breaking rules and I don't know what I'm doing.
Well,
Because it's not intentional.
For example, you might have a philosopher, there are several philosophers who refuse to use periods because they think that the dialectic of consciousness should be a continuum. And so they only use commas as part of their genre trope. So when I talk about genre conventions include things like being able to invoke certain grammar rules. So for example, grammar is different in APA in scientific writing than it is in MLA for novels. And so when we're talking about genre bending, just because some authors genre bends doesn't mean that genre is still not important. For example, where do you find the book in the library? Where do you go to rent Stranger Things? They have to still market it in a certain place. Stranger Things is still marketed in a very specific place because that allows the audience to find what they're looking for. If not, our books would be all over.
To some degree, yes. However, word of mouth is much more valuable than where it is in the library.
How would word of mouth transcend time and culture, though?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So a library allows me to go to the philosophy section and find Aristotle. I can't depend on my friends to tell me about Aristotle because word of mouth is only as good as the people who are alive during the time of the author. So if I want to go back in and read antiquity, genre becomes very, very important.
Well, now I'm going to break rules here as the referee. That's mixing the point here because we're not writing in antiquity.
Yeah, this is modern writing. So modern writing, we're genre bending. I 100% agree. In the past, no genre bending. Modern writing does.
So you're saying genre doesn't matter because in the present we genre bend.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. In the past, it was much more black and white, but we're having a lot more fun now.
That wasn't the point I was trying to make with the referee, but that is okay. We've got.
Make your points.
What point were you trying to make?
I am going to switch to a question because my brain got just a little distracted there. It's okay. It's okay. I want to get to a couple of watcher questions out there. Sue asks, an author has a following, but if they want to jump or change genres, should they use their name or switch to another name? If genre matters or doesn't matter, what's more important? Do you switch names? You keep the name? Is your author, you mentioned author persona, is author persona more important than what they're writing?
Yeah, I think this one can go either way. I truly do. There are people out there who every time they change genres, they change their name. What I would argue at that point is, do you have time to maintain a fully different persona? Great example, Mira Grant, who is Sean McGuire. She did a different persona for Mira Grant, and she was very obvious about like, yeah, that's me. They're making me do that.
All right. I think we're going to wrap up with final thoughts. Morgan, do you have any final thoughts here?
Yeah, absolutely. I would argue that genre matters cross-culturally, historically, and it allows us to access information and even modern content. I think that if I want to go see a great foreign film, I absolutely need genre to get me in the direction of science fiction, if that's what I want to see, or Westerns, and I can't depend on word of mouth. And so I think genre becomes very important in communicating with me as a reader and a consumer of information, where I can find that information and bringing me relevant and important things. As a writer, I think genre conventions are really important. Let's look at Stranger Things, for example. Well, we say it's an actual genre-bending novel. If we break it down to point 4 in the genre conventions of tropes, setting, theme, character archetype, and plot structures, it's not bending genre, it's a horror, just like Molly said. And it hits all of the major aspects of that genre convention. So it's not bending as much as we think. It's just playing up sub-genres, like romance, for example, and a little bit of fantasy. And so I would argue that genre is critical to giving writers, and I'll go back to Ursula K. Le Guin, and she tells us that what genre gives us is the gift of techniques, structures, materials, and ideas that help us write in a way that brings more pleasure to our audience. And that's my final thought.
Teresa, final thought.
I think claiming that you're in a certain genre and you can only write a certain way is too limiting. Have fun. Genre bend as much as you want. It's your story. If you want to write a historical mystery set in space, by all means, enjoy it. Be well read in those different genres so that you do understand the tropes, but have at it. Go make something experimental that's fun. You don't have to keep doing the same thing.
All right, I've got a final thought as the referee here, and then we have one final question from the audience that I want to put in here, which I have a very strong opinion on. We're not going to debate a ton, it'll be a lightning round, but in chat, you can answer this question too. Chat, you've already seen it come up. But my final thought here on this debate is just a reminder, everybody, genre is a tool. Genre is a technique, as Morgan is saying. But I want to emphasize one point here. A great novel doesn't have to have readers to be great.
Good points. Excellent points.
Now, lightning round, the final. Thank you all for listening to this great debate, the great author debate. Does genre matter? And as a final question, lightning round, Morgan, quick answer. No real explanation. You got to answer quick. Are hot dogs sandwiches or not?
Hot dogs aren't food.
A hot dog isn't food. Okay. Not food. Teresa.
Oh, I get the same question?
Yeah, same question.
Not a sandwich.
Not a sandwich. I would argue that a hot dog is a taco.
Cute.
And with that note, thank you all for joining us today. We loved having you here. Make sure to watch our other videos. and subscribe if you can. If not, we'll see you next time.
Did anyone guess how tall I was?
Oh, yeah, someone did guess how tall you were. Someone guessed 5'4".
Oh, much taller.
Someone else thought that you are shorter than Teresa. Someone else said you're taller than Teresa. So,
Who said taller?
Talia did.
Yay, Talia! I'm very tall. I'm almost 5'9". Pretty much 5'9".
And on that note, we love you out there. Stay safe. Go right.
Yeah. Go put words on paper. Have fun.